Could scores of Pinewood Gardens residents lose their homes? The BEC chairman says Monday's meltdown was not the norm. Debate on the constitutional referendum delayed. Explosive devices found on the Mayaguana Airport runway, plus the Prime Minister surrounded by beautiful women. We've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Bonnie Toot, and NB12 starts now. Topping news tonight, hundreds of homeowners in Pinewood Gardens may be forced to pay for their property twice. This after a Privy Council ruling that several plots of land sold to Pinewood residents were sold by people who didn't even own the land. Kyle Walking reports.
Yesterday, the Privy Council in the case of Dennis Dean and another versus Arawak Homes Limited ruled that Arawak Homes wins the battle of documentary title and is not subject to proprietary estoppel, thus dismissing the case of Mr. and Mrs. Dean, who appealed a ruling previously handed down in the Supreme Court. According to Tavares Larota, the general counsel for Arawak Homes, the company first purchased the lots in 1983, and since 1985, they've been in legal battles with people, including the Deans, who claimed they rightfully purchased them. During this process, the lots were sold to aspiring homeowners. However, Laroto says any person that would have purchased property in that area would have known of Arawak's interest in the land and the steps they were taking to assert that interest. He adds that many attempts were made to stop the Deans from building, but they all failed.
From the foundations were laid, from the initial stages of construction, the company attempted to stop them from doing this. The Deans were adamant that they were the owners of Arawak land. Arawak obtained an injunction to stop construction. At a point during the matter, there was a penal notice attached to that. There was a prison sentence for contempt, and they continued to construct the buildings, notwithstanding those issues.
Now, according to Larota, the court ruling also confirmed that from 1983, as it relates to Sir Lyndon Pindling Estates, the Nassau Village subdivision does not exist.
Arawak would have purchased lots in Pinewood Gardens, renamed Sir Lyndon Pindling, and continued its development using that official plan. A number of persons through fraudulent means have asserted over the years the existence of a subdivision which the courts have long said did not exist as it relates to the company's land. This ruling conclusively confirms that as it relates to the company's property, that subdivision does not exist or apply.
This right here today would be like Cleveland Union School. Over here would be like City Curtis School. When you go in past City Curtis School, on your left there's a corner that if you take, you could go to Nassau Village and Soldier Road and stuff. All that homes back there, you talking about.
The company insists they have no concern about the homes that were built on the lots, but all they want is to be paid for the property. They add that they don't desire to make any litigation against anyone, as no one has been charged or jailed in this matter, and that they are open to settlements. The company's president, Frannon Wilson, says so far they have already met with over 100 people. He says they will carry out an extensive campaign over the next 12 months to give people an opportunity to do so. If not, he says legal action will be taken.
When you drive along the Charles on this highway, when you look left and right, the overwhelming majority of that property belongs to Arawak Homes. A lot of the people who live in that highway would have purchased property from Arawak Homes. Some didn't. Those people that didn't, the fact of the matter is they have homes there. The reality is today that property belongs to Arawak Homes. They cannot pass that on to their children. You can't will something that doesn't belong to you.
67-year-old Ruth Hannah Evans says the entire ordeal is plain nasty and that she ended up paying for her home in Sir Lyndon Pindling Estates twice.
Sir Lyndon Pindling with all, they came have meeting all every different week. They came and said, do not buy the property from no one. Bring your paper wherever you buy, bring it in the government. I went and I took my papers in the government, and I was able to pay over again. I paid twice for my property. Some I didn't finish pay for yet.
Now, phase 2 of Pinewood Garden starts from right here on Buttonwood Avenue and continues east until Seabreeze. Again, Arawak Homes is urging anyone who did not purchase their property from them to contact them as soon as possible. Reporting from Pinewood for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
As investigations continue into Monday's power outage, which impacted 50% of consumers on New Providence, Executive Chairman of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation, Leslie Miller, says BEC is more than capable of meeting power demands of customers and is committed to preventing further disruptions in service. Simone Davis reports.
BEC Chairman Leslie Miller said Monday's power outage is still under investigation. He said although there were no problems at its Clifton Pier substations, both power plants are being investigated to get to the root of the problem and prevent future outages. BEC brought in Power Secure to assist with an investigation into what happened, and the executive chairman said they are now working on some of those recommendations. He said Deputy Prime Minister and Minister responsible for BEC, Philip Brave Davis, is pushing the company to address this issue as soon as possible.
So the one thing you're doing is to go home in the evening in 95-degree heat, and you find that you got no light, you know? So in unforeseen circumstances, when there are challenges to our network, it is our goal to make those disruptions as briefly as possible. Sometime when those engines go down, the problem we have is when the engines go down, you try to get them back up. Then you find other problems. And that's what has been happening with us. One engine go out to protect itself, and the next thing you know, when you're fixing one thing on it, something else goes wrong. And that has been part of the problem that we've been having. I want to again apologize on behalf of the corporation, on behalf of the minister, who was very upset, I can tell you, about what is going on now, and he's asking us to get it right, and get it right as soon as possible.
On Monday, more than half of the corporation's customers on New Providence were without electricity for hours. Miller says BEC met the demand on Monday, so they have to get to the bottom of what happened there. He insists the outages experienced in recent weeks are not the norm, adding it is far removed from rolling blackouts and load shedding customers would have experienced in the hot summer months of previous years. He noted that in order for the company to do its part in keeping the customers' electricity on, customers should make it a priority to pay their power bill. He said the company needs about $40 million this month to pay for fuel.
We had a meeting of the board of directors last week, but because of the financial constraint that BEC finds itself in now, we're asking our customers to assist us by trying to pay, I can't say as much as they can, but whatever they can, to enable us not to disrupt their services. But we find ourselves in a precarious situation where we need to generate about $40 million this month to enable us to defray our costs for our fuel. Because right now we are at our limit with our fuel supplier, which is $120 million.
He added that the average Bahamian owes BEC about $5,000.
Average Bahamian in New Providence owes BEC in excess of $5,000. I know you all find that difficult to believe. I find it difficult to believe. But it is true.
Miller said BEC is in the process of making a proposal to the government to create another plant at its Clifton Pier location in hopes to resolve some of the issues causing these power outages. He said he is committed to doing whatever it takes to ensure that Bahamians do not suffer these outages in the future. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
Government has postponed debate on 4 constitutional amendment bills until next week, after the opposition asked for additional time to ensure its members and their constituents fully understand the implications of the bills which address gender equality. Debate was expected to begin today on the bills, which will pave the way for a constitutional referendum in November. However, opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis says, given the struggles Bahamian women still endure, especially when it comes to discrimination, the FNM wants to ensure all of its supporters understand the importance of these bills.
And as you know, the Constitution is the heart and the soul of our country. And therefore, I think the opposition would like additional time to review and discuss the matter even with its constituents, so that there's a proper understanding among its constituents, a proper understanding among its supporters, and a proper understanding especially among all Bahamians.
Minnis could not say how much time the opposition needs, but he says F&M MPs plan to meet with each other and their constituents as quickly as possible. Leader of Government Business in the House, Dr. Bernard Outage, says the government fully supports the opposition's request, insisting they have to get it right.
Last week when we were here, we got the impression that there was unanimity of support for the bills. And if there are questions which still need to be answered, then we are fully supportive of giving the time for that to take place. Let me say that I was under the impression that we could achieve this by next week.
Outage suggested that government and opposition MPs meet this week to discuss the F&M's concerns.
I wanted to invite the opposition that if we would move these changes, that they would second the motion so that we demonstrate to our country our desire and our commitment to these changes. Leadership, Mr. Speaker, is very important, and sometimes people don't always understand or appreciate what you're trying to do. But I'm sure that our country would appreciate it to see the opposition and the government uniting on a very worthy and necessary cause.
Outage apologized to members of the Constitutional Commission who were present in the visitors' gallery today for the delay. Police have launched an investigation into explosive devices that were reportedly planted on the Mayaguana Airport runway and discovered by officials on Sunday evening. Transport and Aviation Minister Glenys Hannah Martin says a team of officers from New Providence traveled to Mayaguana to investigate the discovery. Michael MPV Alfred Gray raised the matter in Parliament today and noted there could have been a very serious accident had the explosives not been discovered in time.
I don't want to make light of this because the people of Mayaguana have gone through a lot over the last couple of months, probably 2 years. But somebody, Mr. Speaker, put explosive caps on the runway, and thanks to the good fortune of the people who do these things, they found out in time and an accident was averted.
Gray admonished the people of Mayaguana to learn to settle their differences without violence.
But I want Mayaguana people to hear me. Do not ever take the law into your own hands, no matter how angry you are, no matter what the circumstances are. I'm talking to Mayaguana people, not to the incident that might have been averted, but I want Mayaguana people to know there is a better way. We cannot afford for them to get angry for whatever reason and try to endanger the lives of other people.
This discovery comes just 3 months after the government reopened the airport on Mayaguana to commercial carriers. Work to complete the runway resumed shortly after the mother, sister, and brother-in-law of former cabinet minister Sidney Colley were killed when a plane crashed into their truck on the airport runway last year.